Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Is It Fun podcast. I'm here again with my good friend Trip. Say hello, Trip.
Hi.
That's great. Um, and we are here to talk some about a few games that we liked this week that are coming up or already released, as well as an interesting chat topic, which is probably super popular amongst all people that play video games right now, the release of the new Legion expansion for World of Warcraft.
Absolutely.
So, a few interesting things to note before we dig right in. Had a very good brainstorming session about possibly releasing video, so you may be fortunate enough to see a video to this. And if not this one, then it is coming soon in the future, so that's something to look forward to. And on a more casual note, Trip, how was your week?
It's been pretty boring. I have just been off work and really trying to enjoy myself, trying to de-stress.
Gotta love those staycations, right? I do.
Absolutely.
All right, well, good. My week was pretty much the same as always, so a bucket of fun. As I like to say commonly, I'm living the dream, but
Sure. Yeah.
as a
Mm-hmm.
very sarcastic comment on the way things go. Um, but yeah, so let's get right into it. Let's get started. So I want to talk first about Tokyo Mirage Sessions FE. Um,
Awesome.
Now that game is for the Wii U only.
It is now exclusively for the Wii U. Yep.
Yeah, and as we discussed in the last episode, I'm not a huge fan of that, so I haven't actually been given the opportunity to play this game because of all my Nintendo angst that I have. So, um, Trip, why don't you go over a little bit of the aspects of this game in particular?
Well, the thing is, if you've played any of the more recent Persona releases, 3 or 4, then you should be familiar with the style of game. If you played those games and enjoy those games, there's no reason why you shouldn't get this game, Greg. And yeah, it's it's really like it feels a lot like those games. You're put into dungeons. It's the top-down view of your character running around the dungeon. You initiate battles with a button press sword swing, and you can surprise enemies or be surprised by enemies, or have a rather neutral encounter where no one really has an advantage. And yeah, it feels a lot like those games. There's your characters gain levels. It's very RPG-ish with the battle style. 3 people per battle.
Does
It's
it
good.
does it have the cute anime styling that I love so much?
I'm telling you, dude, if you've played the last 2 Persona games, then this game is for you if you enjoyed those games.
All right. Well, I did. I mean, I played over 100 hours of Persona 4 Golden because that's how I roll.
Yep,
Um,
sure. Hmm.
And Fire Emblem's the recent entry on the 3DS, Fire Emblem Fates, I think, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah. Oh,
Sorry, there's Conquest and the other one,
R- Awakening, Conquest, and Revolution, maybe?
Revelations. Yep.
Revelations. Yeah, thank you. Love that. Didn't finish it yet, but I did enjoy it. So essentially, you're saying that this is a combination of those two companies. Now, were both companies involved in making it, or was it just one?
I heard that they had been discussing it, and well, it feels more like a Persona game than it does a Fire Emblem game. It feels like a Persona game with Fire Emblem flavor to it. Like the character, your personas, and I'm using air quotes, which you can't see, but the personas are actually Fire Emblem characters, and the leveling system feels hilariously, it feels like Fire Emblem. When you gain a level, it makes that level up sound from Fire Emblem,
That we all
so
love.
that we all know and love. And yeah, so it is very much a Persona game with Fire Emblem flavor to it.
Fantastic. So, um, now how does it control though? Because I mean, using the Wii U big bulky game screen control, is that beneficial in any way or?
I mean, in my opinion, the big bulky Wii U game screen controller, that stops being an issue about 10 minutes after you start playing the system. After you're like 10 minutes into the system, you just stop noticing it. It's there, it's different. It doesn't feel like your Xbox or PlayStation controller, but it's it feels natural after a little while playing. The way it actually goes into the game, I think the map is down there, but that's really about it doesn't there's not really many features to it that you utilize. I don't think some touchscreen map controls, but that's about it.
Okay, well that sounds good. So I'm guessing, and I think you've told me this before, but you're saying to me I should probably buy a Wii U just to play this game, maybe.
I am telling you there are at least 3 games on the Wii U, as you well know, that you would enjoy playing. So if possible, I think it's worth it. Like I mean, if you want to play those 3 games and enjoy them, which were Xenoblade Chronicles X, the
True.
Bayonetta 2, and this game. So yeah.
I did love me some Bayonetta. That was kind of
Yep.
amazing.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, I'll have to look into that. So overall, you would say probably that this is fun. Then I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, like another aspect of Fire Emblem I just thought of, like inside in the battles, the weakness systems to the enemies works off of Fire Emblem rules too. There's like axe is greater than spear is greater than sword's greater than axe.
Ah,
So yeah, so that's another fun flavor to it. But yeah, I mean, again, if you enjoyed Persona, if you enjoy the world of Fire Emblem, this game is for you.
all right. Absolutely. Okay. So the second game I wanted to talk about, this is something I do have a little bit of experience with, is the Darkest Dungeon, and this game was a Kickstarter game. Well, it was a Kickstarter project that got backed and then became a game. Um, and it's developed by Red Hook Studio. Now, this game has a very unique art style, and I actually am just in love with it. I think it looks beautiful. What would you say, Trip?
I don't know if I'm in love with it. I think it's very dark and moody, and I'm always appreciative of things that are unique, and it is unique. It's not something that I think you've actually seen before, and especially not in this style of game. But yeah, I think it's very creative the way they put that together. So I would say I'm in support of it.
Yeah, dark and moody, man. That's right up my alley.
Yep, you're,
um,
you're a huge bummer.
yeah. So, um, so the Darkest Dungeon, the play style is simply, you have these band of heroes that you recruit in the hamlet, which is basically like your starting area, your home base.
Your
Um,
hub.
your hub, yes, perfect. Um, and you have all these heroes that you can recruit every time you venture out into the quote darkest dungeon, right, which is the final level of the game. But there's all of these different objectives that you have to go explore and complete. And
Yeah.
as you do that, chances are you're going to lose some characters because I think I've played maybe 10 to 12 hours and have lost plenty myself. Um,
Well, the setup to it is like the way it's played out, of course, is that like it's a very entropic type of gameplay. The point is you are going to like it's all weighted that you would fail. Failure is going to win one way or the other. You're supposed to lose characters. You're supposed to have the insanity mechanic come into play and drag you down and everything. So
and it certainly
it's
does.
yeah, like it forces the player to get used to loss. Like you can't fall in love with the character because you're not going to get to keep them. Don't name it because you're not going to get to keep it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is, and as you get closer and closer towards the end game, right? It's not so much about having a character. Like, let's say, I mean, there's many classes in the game, but I'm just going to take one for example. Like, there's the Berserker class, right? The point of the game at the end, I think, is not to have a Berserker, but to have maybe 4 Berserkers, right? That are all basically the same. They're going to have their own little independent quirks and stuff, but you're really utilizing. I need to fill a tank role, so I need some class that fills that tank role that I can use, and then I need multiple of that tank role, right?
Sure, yeah. And while one is adventuring, others are recouping or whatever. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, because it does function on like a week by week basis. So every time you go exploring with a group, a week passes at the hamlet, at your hub, which you can then use to recover, health, sanity, stress levels, um, as well as upgrading all of your, weapons and armor and abilities. It really is. It's a really great RPG in that sense, right?
Absolutely. It's yeah, it's really like moody. Like there's the voiceover work, the narration that's happening the whole time. Like something will happen to one of your characters, and the narrator will say something, suitably bland that it would apply to a lot of different situations. But it really adds to the just the whole mood of the game is really really cool.
Yeah, narration is amazing. Sound is amazing. The soundtrack is good too. So, all in all, just my personal opinion. I've had a lot of fun with it. I've had a lot of fun watching other people play it. I've had a lot of fun experiencing it. I would definitely say it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that honestly, it's just not my style of game. Like I did enjoy it, I did play it a few times or whatever, but just I need a little more sustainability to the building that I do of a group of people or a character or whatever. It's just like you would put all this hope into like one of your guys, and then something completely RNG off the wall would happen, and they would just be dead. And so there was just nothing you could do about it.
Yeah, sure. Like seven crits in a row, right? Like that's gonna happen.
Yeah, and it's just like I had those insane moments where like you would okay, I just have to hit this one last spider and we'll be good to go, and you'd miss, and then the next person would miss, and then the first person would miss again, and it just made me insane. Yeah, that it was not for me, but I think it's a well put together game for a certain type of person.
Yeah, and I'm happy that a game came out of Kickstarter and has been really successful. I know that's not the first one, don't get me wrong, but it is a good example of how that can work. Because I know, especially with Kickstarter, sometimes you have to be pretty cautious. Because I backed Unsung Story, and we all know how that went.
We are. I'm still like. It's funny when each new article you see about how Unsung Story has betrayed us, and it was like, no, we've already given up on that. We don't need any more updates.
And I think
I know I'm out $50 or however much it was. Yeah.
yeah, and I think even Playdeck, which is the supposed developer of Unsung Story, they put out a update about once every 3 months, and
Sure.
they'll say something like, "We had some delays, and we're still working on it." And like you can tell, the community's like, "You are full of shit,
Yeah.
right? You took
It,
$700,000 and dipped, right?"
yeah. It's really a bummer when you look at it. Like they've released some stuff on it, and you could tell some thought had gone into it, but and they may still they may still come up with some product or whatever. But no part of me is hopeful anymore.
I mean, it's just such a betrayal to tug on the heartstrings of people when you say the true successor, the spiritual successor to Final Fantasy Tactics, which is a game that I know I loved, um, and put that out there like it's going to be a possibility, and then just jerk the rug out.
Yeah, I mean, I've bought Final Fantasy Tactics so many times on so many different platforms. Yeah, it'd be awesome if it happened, but no, I'm not hopeful anymore.
Yeah, but not to take away from Red Hook and the Darkest Dungeon, because that well executed, well done. They're actually still adding content. Just last month, I think there was a huge update where we added another class, and they continue adding content and fixing issues. So these guys, thumbs up to Red Hook Studio for sticking with everybody that paid for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool. One more thing I will say about it is that the build up is really slow. Like like the development of your classes and stuff, it was disappointingly slow to me, which was one reason that I think I kind of lost interest in it. Is it takes so many like materials to unlock class upgrades and everything. It was another aspect of it that kind of didn't jive with me. But yeah, it's a good game.
Yeah, it is kind of grindy. I see what you're saying
Yeah.
there, because I've done plenty of runs where the only sole objective was let me get 5,000 gold so I can get this next item or this next ability, right?
Yeah.
Well, all right, good deal. So let's move on to talk about our third game on the list for this week, and I think this one's going to be a little bit more well known. So I want to talk a little bit about Dark Souls 3, because Dark Souls, since the second one, and I say that for a reason because there's a story behind it, but since the second one has been one of my favorite games, IPs from Software. Just an amazing game, and Dark Souls 3's been out for a while now. I've played it and went through the story multiple times. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the impact of Dark Souls 3, and do you feel the same way as I do, Trip?
You well know that I have a great love for this game, and all of the From Software titles in this vein. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I distinctly remember a time many years ago, you and my other good friend Jake were playing Dark Souls 1, and I think I was being a little pessimistic about it over there when I was hanging out with you guys. I think I even said something to the effect of, This game is so stupid. I can't believe we're playing it. Can we just play Mario Brothers?
I like the way you're pretending that you're not pessimistic about these games still at certain points in time.
That's true. Sometimes I feel a lot of hatred for them, but
Can
uh,
I get you to think back to the first DLC boss for Dark Souls 3?
oh yeah. Well, that there's some issues with a lot of these bosses, but
I'm sorry. I meant to say Bloodborne. I'm so sorry. Yeah, DLC boss for Bloodborne.
yeah, that was ridiculous, and makes me hate it. In a good way, like hate in a good way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the point of these games. Like they brought the idea of an incredibly difficult challenge back to video games in general. I think they really kind of resurrected that whole. It doesn't have to be easy to be fun.
Yeah, and
Aspect.
there's something that's fulfilling about dying hundreds of times, but the one time you get it, it's amazing. You're like,
Yeah,
of course that was all skill, right? Because I died the last 99 times. Um, so it does have a good way of making you feel accomplished when you kind of conquer these in extremely hard situations. Um, yeah, so I played Dark Souls 2 all the way through first, then went back and played 1, which in my opinion is a superior game to 2 actually. After playing them both, I enjoyed 1 a little bit more. I think the community's kind of on the same page there. I just felt like it felt a little snappier. And then in Dark Souls 3, now that that's out, it also feels really snappy. So they took a lot from Dark Souls 1 for this third sequel here, or
are you just
second
talking
sequel.
about like the actual feel of the character movement, or are you just the overall
Just,
cohesion of the game?
just the feel of the character movement. Yep, like the
Sure.
blocking, parrying, rolling, everything just felt a little bit snappier and faster in 1, and now in 3.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
but kind of, I mean, I'm pretty sure anybody that listens to this is familiar with these games. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about just how is it that a game like this gets developed and kind of just takes over in popularity? Because, Dark Souls 1 kind of wasn't all that popular. And then once everything started catching on, it just snowballed, right? Um,
Sure.
and then Dark Souls 2 was obviously very popular, even though a lot of criticism was taken from that game because it was slightly different from Dark Souls 1. And then we had the Bloodborne release, which I think was mixed, but mostly positive.
Yeah.
Um, I particularly did not get into that as much, but we can talk about that in a sec.
Yep.
And then Dark Souls 3, which was pretty damn good. I mean, I felt like it was over too fast when I played it, you know?
Yeah. It's one of those games you never want to end. You always hope there's going to be more secrets somewhere. And yeah, I kind of agree with you on Dark Souls 3. I will say I felt the ending was a little more abrupt than I wanted it to be. A little more like you beat the boss, you get teleported to an area, and then it's like, oh, and there's the last boss for you.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree on that point. But also, don't forget, Demon Souls was the real beginning to all this. Dark Souls is definitely a good series of games, but Demon Souls is where all this came from.
That is a fair point. I have watched play. I haven't personally played it. It's hard to get your hands on a copy um, these days, but I have watched a couple of playthroughs. I even saw a Games Done Quick on it this year.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it looks like I mean, you can literally see the company growing up through these games, right?
yeah. And it's interesting because the Demon Souls was I don't remember names of people or whatever, but the director of all this, who's been this successful and everything, he was the originator of this style of gameplay, and it was very much a Hail Mary for From Software, I believe. Like they weren't going to get many other chances after this, and
So
this kind of revived the company.
yeah, so they kind of said, well, you better make a good game or else, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and he did, and it's really done incredible things for them. They're actually getting to expand back into the stuff they enjoy doing, I guess, which is well, not stuff they enjoy doing, but older IPs too. I believe they're going to bring back Armored Core in some form. I heard,
Yeah,
but yeah.
that'd be interesting. Yeah, but Dark Souls, what a love-hate relationship. It's so many times, so much frustrations, and honestly, the co-op's getting better a little bit. Still kind of frustrating, um, but it does fit the lore, I guess. I think we tried for maybe 2 or 3 hours one night just to see if we could all get in the game together. It literally took that long to work out that we just couldn't.
I
because
just I get that they want to make it fit the lore. I get that they want to make it like different and not just like, drop in, drop out, like Counter-Strike or another one of the online like Halo or whatever. They want to make it to where it's a thing, and I get it, but at the same time, it's just like your player's enjoyment of that would be tenfold if it was just you hit a button, you join your friend in a game. The complications and ritual they surround it in just I don't think that's a smart move, and they keep doing it.
yeah, it's aesthetically pleasing, but it's very cumbersome in actual execution.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, it's like almost like mentally pretty, but doesn't really do anything else for you.
Yeah. So now that we, and I know you have, beaten Dark Souls 3, we've got it.
Yep.
So what does life look like now after Dark Souls 3, right?
After Dark Souls 3, what do you do with yourself?
Yeah. Like, what? I mean, are there other titles? Because I remember a title. It was called. You might have to help me out here. Um, was it Faith of the Fallen? Lords of the Fallen?
Lords of the Fallen. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, and I cannot remember the company that makes it, but they're actually working on another title too that's going to be more sci-fi-ish,
Hmm.
along with the Lords of the Fallen vein, which is honestly the Dark Souls vein, and there's so many, basically it's inspired so many other games
Yeah.
that it's only added to the video game universe, really.
So I wonder if now, since we don't have we're waiting on some Dark Souls 3 DLC because I'm sure it's coming.
Yep.
But what games do we play to kind of fill that niche?
Um, well, I honestly couldn't say. Well, I mean, you're looking for a challenging game that is unforgiving and rewarding because you have to overcome such trials to succeed in the game.
Yeah.
So as far as modern stuff, like I'm not sure what we'd be looking at for that. Have you
Well,
anything else?
yeah, for me, I was looking around for that kind of challenge, and I feel like a lot of the games they still spoon feed you, like they're that immediate gratification and immediate checkpoint that you can load up 2 seconds right before you die. So I
Yeah,
mean, like I said, that Lords of the Fallen was a pretty good kind of layover between 2 and 3. Um,
sure.
but I haven't found one as of yet, so I'm open to
Well, from
suggestions for.
from what we saw at E3, we should be getting some interesting stuff coming up. Recore looks very, very different, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. Um, but at the same time, like stuff that is or games that are complete, ripoffs of Dark Souls, and I don't think they would even argue that much if I was to say it. Would be like Salt and Sanctuary, and
That
that was a very solid game. I got a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The 2D aspect of it was kind of weird for me, but I still really liked it. Yep.
Yeah, like the overall sense of it, and like the mood and atmosphere was just awesome.
Yeah. So here's hoping to some additional Dark Souls DLC here for Dark Souls 3. And to game companies out there, it wouldn't hurt to make a challenging game every now and again. Right? Just
Don't be afraid to give us hell because we apparently like it.
yeah, we can self mutilate. We're fine. We can do this. Um, yeah. All right. So moving right along, I guess. I mean, to close that section off, to be honest, right? Dark Souls
Yeah,
3, it is fun. Absolutely. Even through the hard stuff, I would definitely give that a seal of approval for that.
absolutely. I mean, it has to be said. It's not for everyone. There are people who picked it up and hated it, but they're not good people. So we're fine.
Right. If you don't like Dark Souls, then get the fuck out. Basically. All right, good deal. So, well, that's it for the games this week. I mean, obviously, there's plenty of games, and I am looking forward to next week when we can experience a little bit of this No Man's Sky to find out if all this hype is real, right? Because
Absolutely. Give
we,
you guys a more comprehensive view of it. We're going to play it ourselves the day it comes out because we don't have lives. And yeah,
we absolutely will do that. So, and I don't know. There's been some leaks. Some people saying that not going to be all that great, and it got overhyped. So, we'll definitely take a segment out next week to talk about that and let you guys know. or girls, just saying. Um,
We've
target,
heard that many gamers are girls.
yeah,
Haven't seen it yet, but sure.
sure. Target audiences sometimes can be varied. Um, all right, so let's move on to the discussion topic for this week. It's going to kind of be in a couple of different parts, right? Um, but as we all know, or if you don't, you do now, because I'm about to tell you, the new expansion for World of Warcraft, the Legion expansion, is coming out soon, and that's going to bring a lot of changes to the game, a new class, new weapon system. I think they've revamped a whole lot of things, added a new area. I mean, tons and tons of content going into this. So, I myself personally haven't played WoW in a few years, since Lich King, right? Um, but I know plenty of people that still do every day. It's a huge deal in the gaming community. It's obviously the most popular MMO that ever has been or was. Um, so I'm going to start this conversation off, Trip, and say, if I haven't played WoW in a long time, and let's say I played it a way long time ago, which I did,
Yep, yep.
is this the expansion that brings me back to enjoying this game, or is it too late for that?
Well, you gotta see about it. Like people who've been playing it on and off, which I have been, and you've played it some, but you haven't been on in a very long time. Like people who've been playing it on and off more regularly have seen that these more gradual changes. You are going to see a huge change from Lich King. They've really tried really hard to separate out the different specs of the individual classes. So you're not going to see like, oh, I have a warlock and I get to pick from these different aspects of the 3 warlock trees or whatever. It's like you're going to be a destruction warlock pretty firmly. Now you can switch between your specs, of course, but that individual destruction spec or the demonology spec or whatever, they're gonna feel more distinctive, and they've done what I feel is a pretty solid job with the Legion pre-Legion patch here in separating out the classes even more, because that was one of their goals with Legion, was to make sure that all the classes felt distinctive and had their own flavor and maybe match the lore of the class more closely.
So like so a lot of MMOs, they'll have like 15, 16, 20 classes.
Mhm.
So these spec lines, I mean, that's kind of how it was when I played in Wrath. Um, you had the choice of 3 different specs, but you really didn't, because only one was really viable, especially for depending on what content you were doing. But in-game rating, you basically had one way to go per class. Is that
Yeah.
different now? Like
Well,
that's
I think it's, you would look at it like, okay, well, Druid, you have, for instance, they have 4 specs on a Druid: melee DPS, range DPS, healing, and tanking. So, it would depend on what you want to do with that, because melee and range DPS, they each kind of are going to have a different role in a raid. Tanking and healing are most certainly going to have a different role in a raid. And different raids are going to have a need for a different type of setup. Like if your main raid healer is really good at tank healing, then your resto druid is going to be more attractive potentially as a backup healer, because their heals mostly have an application that would apply to the raid, being a raid healer.
hmm.
So it just depends on your setup, and so I think in that way, many of the classes had always been viable, but it just depends on how you built your raid group and everything. But with this and the way they've maybe done a better job of specializing the individual talent specs or whatever, which they're no longer talent specs, they're just specs. The way they've done a better job in individualizing that, you probably won't see much of an advantage of one over the other. Hopefully,
Right.
maybe you'll say, oh, fire mages are definitely more effective. Like in the situation where you have like 3 DPS classes, it might be like so and so is better for PvP, so and so is better for PvE, and then so and so is just not as good at PvE. But
Right.
yeah, like that kind of be what you look at. Or it might be the case that the 3rd spec is better at leveling in general, or like solo play outside of like survivability or something. So it'd be better at solo play outside of raids or whatever, depending on what you want to do. Because a lot of people don't raid in WoW. They like do world events, or they do collection quests or whatever.
Sure. And if you're like me, you did fishing dailies.
Yep, or or the fishing dailies, or the 80 other things that WoW gives you to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate here. Um, For a game that's so old, it's been a while, over 10 years.
Yep.
Um, why should I still care about it though? Like, I guess I'm just saying, like, I'm just curious. What is the draw from World of Warcraft still? So because I know there's still, over 10 million subs, right? Like it's still healthy, working fine. Um,
I'm not sure if there's 10 million subs anymore, but yeah, there's a fair amount still.
oh, so it's
They
that.
they stopped reporting numbers a while ago, which
Ah,
either means that they stopped caring about subscription numbers or it dropped off so sharply they thought it might be discouraging for new players to hear about it.
sure, but they still are putting, content in it. So
Absolutely, which really says everything. You know, they wouldn't have a team on it if it wasn't producing money.
right,
Um, but you want to know why you should care. Well,
yeah,
I mean, for my part, personally, I haven't played this game in a very long time. I played the last expansion, Warlords of Draenor. I played that for a while, but then you lose interest after a while and you stop playing. And what brought me back was the new artifact weapons, which just sound like a ton of fun. There's a whole new class, which is always exciting. You know, a whole new way of playing the game, looking at the game, and everything. And a whole new area to explore and everything.
well, demon hunters are cool. I mean, just by default.
Demon hunters are very cool. I'm super looking forward to the variations of the name Illidan that we're going to see.
Illidan with a bunch of bars and capital or lowercase L's.
Yep, I was kind of hoping the Illidon't is going to be available, so that's going to be my name if it's there.
Well, good luck getting that because that would be quite
Yep.
funny.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I guess so. So when do you know the exact date that comes out? It's soon, right?
I do. August 9th, which is next Tuesday, same day as No Man's Sky being released. That is going to be when pre-orders are able to access the new Demon Hunter class. And then August 30th is when the actual game is being released.
Okay. So all happening this month.
All happening this month.
That's good. Well, it is pretty exciting. I mean, I've had at least 4 or 5 people I know that stopped playing this game come up to me and say, "Yeah, I reactivated my WoW account over
Yeah,
the past week."
me being one of them, of course.
Sure.
And yeah, you see all these names come up that you haven't seen in forever, and you're like, oh, I thought he was married with a kid. He's playing this game now? Crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, apparently there is some draw to it. I mean, look, I think that they've done a good job with the Legion trailers and things like that. Um, the Demon Hunter class is obviously really cool. It's just I'm still kind of hesitant because I'm thinking, well, this game isn't going to look much better than it did before. I mean, it's still going to feel like an older game. Does it feel that way to you when you're playing it?
I don't even think about it, like usually the game, I think they did the art style itself, I think has a really solid survivability just with the changing, more higher graphics and everything, just because it's a very vibrant look to it. It's very, they use a huge palette of colors. It's cartoony and everything. So that itself is going to have, some staying power because it wasn't trying to be cutting edge, high polygon count when it came out to begin with.
Sure.
And they have done some upgrades, and the environments certainly look better as you progress through the environments and the enemy models and newer class models and armor and race models and everything. All that stuff, looks progressively better as you go on. And in Warlords, or not Warlords Draenor, I think Cataclysm, they went through and upgraded a lot of the old race models and everything.
Yeah,
It might have been Warlords of Draenor, but I think it was Cataclysm when they did that.
Yeah, they gave them HD remasters, right?
Yep, they did. And and they're like going through and redoing stuff from time to time still. So yeah, it's I mean, it's not going to look like your greatest the greatest most recent stuff or whatever, but it's good. I think it's solid. I haven't even thought about it, I guess is what I'm saying. That's the beginning and end of that.
Just feels like home, huh?
It does. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I got that feeling when I played Lich. It was just like when you come in, sit down at your keyboard, you see the portal login screen, and you're like, "Yep, that's fine."
I know what's about to happen.
I'm very comfortable with this. I'm gonna put a Netflix show on one monitor, and I'm gonna play the hell out of this in the other. Right?
Exactly. I have Hulu in the background and this in the foreground.
Yep, that's kind of how it works. So I guess just to kind of sum it up, you do get a free level 100, I think, when you buy this game, if you
I don't know
choose
if that's
to.
I don't know if that's a like pre-order or even a like digital collector's edition
Mm.
pre-order. I can't say for certain whether you just get a 100, but
You you
you
can
might.
you can pay for that service though, right?
You can separately. You can purchase a level to 100. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that really. It kind of takes away from some of the fun. I remember when I had to grind up alts manually.
Yeah, it is a little gross. It does feel like it kind of cheapens your effort, you know. Like that, I don't love that aspect of it, but at the exact same time, like just today actually I finished leveling my warrior to level 100, so now I have 11 level 100s, one of each class type,
Well,
and that really feels gross. So yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna take a couple of those. Maybe I'll just borrow one or two. Uh,
we might be able to
little character transfer option here.
arrange some kind of long-term loan. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, okay. So overall, I guess in my personal opinion, I would say if you don't play WoW and you haven't played it in a while, it might be a good time to check it out. But if you're kind of like me, I think I'm gonna wait it out. I mean, if I get pressured a lot by my friends and everybody's playing it, I definitely won't not play it just on principle. But
Sure.
I'm gonna kind of wait and be cautiously optimistic that it does really good. So
Yeah, I mean I enjoy it. You know, I'm messing around with it. It was $15 a month to reactivate, and it's probably earned itself in the past week just because I play it too much. But yeah,
well, there you go.
good stuff.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that wraps it up for us today for this week's podcast. Um, as always, we're going to be coming back next week. We'll release these on Wednesday nights, Thursday mornings. So look for new content on Thursday morning at the website www.isitfun.net. You can also find us on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all that. You can check that out on the website if you're interested. So we will see you guys next week when we talk about some more interesting things, including that recap of No Man's Sky and some more delicious games for us to talk about. So have a good evening, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye bye.